New year, new Switch leaks. Well, these are like a month old, but whatever. December was rough for me, okay? If you couldn't tell by the lack of videos. Not only is the holiday season, but our entire family caught a horribly violent stomach bug, so much so that even a few days after, we were still in pain. And not too long after that, we got a terrible head cold. It lasted like 2 weeks. I'm still a little sick, I'm sure you can hear. We're all feeling generally better, and frankly, you're not here to hear about my health update, because we've got Switch leaks to talk about, and we will talk about them. And before anyone says anything, no, this does not make me a hypocrite. Some of you may remember that when the Pokemon leaks happened, I said I would refuse to talk about leaks for future projects, especially in that situation. And I don't think these are the same situation at all, which is why I'm comfortable talking about the Switch leaks. For one, this isn't like the story of an upcoming game, so it's not like this is spoilers, it's just talking about a console. But most importantly, no one was hurt in these leaks. The main problem I had with the Pokemon leaks is that it included the personal information of a majority of the employees at Pokemon Company, which is messed up. Meanwhile, at most, we just have dumb accessory developers who accidentally or on purpose leaked out the renders they have of the Switch 2, which were likely based off of information that Nintendo gave them. So let's talk about the Switch 2. There are a bunch of leaks, and most of them are probably fake, but the two that I think are the most interesting come from two different case companies that were shared to Reddit. There's this blue case, and frankly I don't remember what company this was. I didn't really see it in the pictures, and it's not like I'm sponsored by the company, so I don't have to promote them. And the other one was from Play Vital, and look at these renders. They look so good and match up with information we've been getting about the Switch 2. Well, information via rumors and other leaks. Let's just break down the features we see here. The magnetic Joycon rumor that instead of clicking down from the sides, they'll magnetically lock into the Switch seems to be true based on this design. I'm still not exactly sure how I feel about that, but I'm sure it's a better connection than the one we have. And it does look like this back button is the release for it. There's a USB-C port on both the top and the bottom of the Switch. I assume they're both chargers, so you can lay down and still play in handheld mode. And honestly, a lot of people have been asking why, but I'm saying thank God, because I am the person who likes to lay out and play on my Switch in handheld mode, and doing so while having it plugged in through the bottom is a really big nuisance. So being able to plug it in from the top is going to make that way easier. Although I do wonder what would happen if you plugged in the top and the bottom. Either nothing would happen or maybe it charges twice as fast. Note that they kept the headphone jack. Honestly, in a world where more and more headphone jacks are being left by the wayside for Bluetooth, I am very thankful that Nintendo seems to still value the headphone jack. The kickstand is way wider, the entire length of the console, instead of the pitiful little foot that the Switch 1 has. And honestly, thank God, because I've never really loved the Switch kickstand. It feels like it gives way too easily. And finally, the mysterious C button that people have been talking about. We'll get to that later, but I'm not going to blow any minds with that specifically. Frankly, I just agree with something someone else already said. These renders are amazing, and they give us a lot of information about what the Switch 2 is going to look like. But there is one issue here. We can't really tell the size of it, or the measurements of the machine itself, because there's nothing to compare it to. It's just the render of the Switch, is what I would say if I was a coward. But I'm going to do something that I haven't seen anybody do yet, or at least something that I didn't look up, so hopefully no one else did it, because I wanted to be the first person to do this. Who knows, maybe if I am, some random indie news site can write an article about this as if it's news. They do it with Reddit posts already, why not this video? Anyway, there is a USB-C port on the Switch renders, and USB-C ports are standardized, baby. Every USB-C port is 3.3 inches wide, or 8.4 millimeters. And look, I'm American, inches make more sense to me, but with things this small, millimeters are a better measurement system. And if we look at the renders we have, there's this render, where while it's at an angle, the base of the Switch is perfectly flat and parallel to the camera. So if we go into Photoshop and measure the pixels of the USB-C port, we'll find that it's exactly 27 pixels wide. So in this image, 1 pixel is about 3.1 millimeters. If we then measure the pixel length of the Switch itself, we get 646 pixels. Using our previous measurement, we can convert that to 200.26 millimeters, or 7.8 inches wide. We're getting somewhere. Fortunately, angle here makes it a little too ambiguous to measure the length without doing some really complicated math that frankly I don't even know where to start with. But luckily there's this other image, and while it is still slightly angled as the left side of the Switch is further from the camera than the right side of the Switch, it's still parallel. And I know that there's probably some kind of math equation you can do to figure out exactly these estimates, but we're already using unperfect renders and pixel measurements. So I thought if we just take the length of the left side and the right side and average them, we'll get a pretty good estimate. We already know the width of the console is 200.26 millimeters, so if we remeasure the width in this picture, we get 489 pixels, giving us a pixel measurement of about 0.41 millimeters per pixel. The two sides of this console are 293 pixels and 237 pixels respectively, giving us a millimeter length of 120.13 and 111.93. 33, averaging out to 116.03 millimeters, or 4.5 inches. Even better, in this same picture, where we already know how big a pixel is in millimeters, we have this front-facing Joycon. So if we take its measurements, we find that it's 118 pixels wide, or 48.33 millimeters, or 1.9 inches by that 4.5-inch ratio we got earlier. But adding that Joycon length through the Switch itself, we get the final dimensions of the Switch 2 console, approximating to be 9.7 inches by 4.5 inches, with a screen of 3.9 by 6.7 inches, or a 7.75-inch diagonal screen. Thank you, Pythagorean theorem. Again, these are pixel measurements of non-perfect pictures of render, so take this with a massive grain of salt. But the screen did naturally come out to a 16:9 ratio when doing this math, so that does give me confidence in the measurement. Judging by this document by Dimensions.com, the original Switch console is 4.01 inches by 9.4, with a screen of 6.2. So this is a significant upgrade, and the best part is the majority of the upgrade is in the screen size. The console itself is only 0.5 inches wider and 0.5 inches taller. Again, that's a good upgrade, but the screen itself diagonally is almost 2 inches longer. So they gave us a massive screen upgrade without having to make the Switch too much bigger, which is a good thing, because I heard a lot of people complain about things like the Steam Deck being too big. Now, I'm not one of those people. I would love the Switch to be a good bit bigger, but I understand that people like how small and sleek the Switch is. And now, even though we have the dimensions of the Switch 2, we're not done yet. We can go a step further, because the other leak, while not showing us the entire console in one picture, has a much closer up image of the buttons, which holds great news. The other leak comes from Play Vital, and looking at this render, we get an incredible render of a close-up Joy-Con. And the best part about this is even without measuring or doing any pixel math, you can see that when they sized up the Joy-Con, they included the buttons. One of the biggest complaints about the Switch is that the buttons are very small for grown-up hands to play with, so any size increase on these buttons is a welcome one, and it looks like there is one. While we're here, we need to address this mystery C button. Part of me at first wanted to just chalk this up as a Z button situation from the GameCube. Basically, Nintendo going, hey, what if we just put on an extra button because? And Nintendo does love to do that, but at the same time, I doubt that, because of the position of the C button. It's under the home button, which if that's meant to be an extra button for gameplay, that's a terrible location. So I was racking my brain trying to figure out what this could be. And frankly, I can't think of a better explanation than what Arlo had already suggested in his video about the C button. That being, it stands for connect, being a sort of screencast or sharing to socials kind of button. And he thinks the whole Switch 2 is going to be a lot more themed around connecting with other players. I just think that's a great theory, and I kind of just believe him, so you win this round, Arlo. And that's everything. Look, these leaks are amazing, but at the end of the day, it's a console. The main thing I wanted to showcase was the fact that we can figure out the correct dimensions for the Switch 2 with these leaks. And I'm really proud of the math I did here. It reminds me of some of my favorite game theory episodes, and it definitely was inspired by those. Yeah, you know those like weird notifications you get on your phone where Google is like, hey, there's a news article, and it's just some like 4-paragraph article about a random Reddit post? If we get lucky, maybe they'll do that about this video. We'll get some weird article like, fan discovered the dimensions for the Switch 2 before the game console's announced or something. Anyway, one last note before I leave you. If you like this channel or you like the content I put out, I actually stream on this channel 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. EST. I'm going to start putting shorts from clips from those streams out, and I really enjoy streaming and want to make it a bigger part of my content, so it would mean the world to me if you checked it out. I'll link one of the VODs from a recent stream right here. But until next time, you've been watching Ride Toost. Of all the YouTube channels, it's the second one. Stay toasty, slices.